Hello, and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to Season 3, Episode 7, The Walk. Brian, what's the legacy of this one?
I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I like, doing the rounds over the years, being involved in various X-Files fandom sites and whatnot. I gather this one is one of those episodes that people respect quite highly, but maybe doesn't appear on, top 5 of the season lists or anything. I think it's just slightly above average for most people. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I gauge from the lay of the land, so to speak. But yeah, it does have a familiar face in there. I don't know the guy's name, but I've seen him in a lot of stuff, like Man of Steel.
This was one of the episodes that, as soon as it started, I suddenly remembered a hell of a lot. Like this is one that I'm familiar with now that we get to it. I think it was more like the twist part of it, and particularly the end of it. Like I kind of really remembered, so I knew it was coming, which kind of robbed a little bit of the episode. But I liked most of it, and we'll get to that. So it opens up in an army psychiatric hospital. Then we've got this obvious hero as we run through all his amazing deeds. He's a suicidal guy, and just let me just preface this: I've got lots of silly niggles in this episode of things that just don't add up.
I've got a few.
So the doctor leaves for a second to get some pain medicine. This guy who's tried to kill himself several times in the past few weeks is not in a locked room. He's not held to the bed in any way whatsoever. He walks out of his room without anybody batting an eyelid to another room, locks himself in, and is about to boil himself alive.
First of all, I'll defend the position of said doctor who leaves him, and then roast the choice of suicide attempt. So, first of all, the doctor says right off the bat that he doesn't believe that this is a genuine attempt at suicide. He sees it as a cry for help. No one actually believes that this guy is trying to commit suicide. The reason for that is because the dude who is responsible for his torment won't let him die. He says that himself. He won't let me die. So they think this is just the ravings of a madman. He doesn't really want to kill himself. That's why he's never quite managed it. So I think, again, I don't think it's quite enough to justify not having this guy on suicide watch. Clearly there's something up with him. An attempt is an attempt, whether it's multiple failed attempts or not, it's still an attempt. But I just think from the perspective of this doctor, he doesn't really believe that he wants to kill himself. He thinks it's a cry for help, and he wants to get into the more psychological aspects of that. That being said, if you're going to choose a particular way to off yourself, I've got to say, surely jumping out of a window or anything has got to be this particular choice. And something else I've got to question as well is, where the hell, what hydrotherapy unit would have such a device that could not only heat water, but heat it to extreme boiling point? What possible purpose could there be for such a device?
And it's not even that. It's almost instantaneous how quickly it gets to the boil. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm waiting on the kettle boiling, it seems to take a lifetime. This massive vat of water, instantaneous. What you really need before it...
I'm going to assume that's just one of those passage of time kind of moments where we're not going to sit there and watch it all, but we've got to assume that he's been in there for a while. But
what we really needed was a scene of him like pushing things out the way, like knives out the way, electrocution out the way, guns, push that out the way. Boil myself alive. Oh yeah. lobster side. It's just it's utterly bonkers. But
yeah, I remember when I first saw it, and I was like, man, that is craziness. That is insanity. Because it's like, there is a myriad. There's a million ways you could possibly take your own life. And the thing is, this guy has a history of having his suicide attempts be stopped by whatever supernatural force it is that keeps tormenting him. So surely he would suspect that if he's going to do this, if he's going to try and carry this out, that same supernatural force is going to find a way to bring him back. And if so, he's going to be in a terrible mess. It's just that there is nothing logical at all about this attempt at suicide. It's just insane.
It's utterly nonsense. But I love the fact that he puts two of the smallest weights imaginable in his pocket just to help aid it. And then the door unlocks itself. We hear a ghostly voice, and he knows people are coming because the alarm gets pulled. And he quickly dives into this tub. Now, I'm imagining that he'd have to be in there for a good little while before he'd actually die. But he knows people are coming, yet he still jumps in. It seems almost pointless. But, the ghostly apparitions, we get this idea that it could be a spirit, but rather than the usual vengeful one, it's one that's saving this guy at the start, opening the door, calling for help.
Yeah. It's just... Where are we on? We're on...
opening scene, Brian. Still in the opening scene.
So he's still on that. So you're thinking what am I thinking when I'm first watching this?
Yeah.
I mean, to which I'm assuming this guy is quite as clean as is made out, because obviously we've had the readout, like you said at the beginning, of all the medals he's won and this, that, and the other. So right off the bat, that instantly raises the question: is this guy as clean as his record seems to show? And then you've got this force that won't let him die, and instantly I'm taken back to the season 1 episode Shadows, with the the supernatural presence, someone from beyond the grave who's come back to dole out justice. Except this time around, they don't want to kill this person; they want to make them suffer. So that's my assumption.
Yeah. So just at the tail end of this scene, the firemen arrive. Now, first they've arrived hell of a quick, and this is one of my biggest bugbears, Brian. Nobody's turned the machine off. They've just waited on the firemen coming. Nobody's attempted to drag this guy out of it whatsoever. He's fully submerged and he's not drowned. Like, how long has he been in this? Like, why did nobody turn it off? I don't know. Should we turn it? No, the fireman will be here in 20 minutes. Let's just wait.
Presumably at this point they've assumed he's dead. They can't put their hands in there to, because they'd burn themselves. So they're going to assume he's dead, and I'm assuming from what we see that is the case, that he has actually died. But the spirit, whatever this presence is, brings him back alive. So, but even so, dead or not, there's a certain respect for the dead that one would have, in which you would still say, I think we better turn this thing off. I mean, at the very least, push the bloody thing over. So it's like, at least try. But it's an intro that I feel goes for complete shock and awe. It goes for the shock factor. What is the most horrific thing we can think to do, but doesn't really think it through as to the logistics of what would really make sense and that. So from that perspective, it succeeds in shocking, because it is something that, even today when I watch it, haven't seen it before, I look at it and it sends shivers down my spine, the thought of that.
I mean, I was surprised the guy was still alive. You know, like it did kind of catch me off guard a little bit. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting and a little bit different. Cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. But did you think that he never died, or did you get that he died and then was brought back?
I thought that he'd never died.
Oh, right. Because the way I saw it is that it did kill him. He died, but then he was resuscitated by whatever this presence is. Because he's proper gone. He's lifeless. He's not screaming or anything. And then suddenly he's like, his eyes kind of pop open, and you hear the skin kind of go. Nice touch.
Lovely. So then we just get thrown into the credits as usual, and then our next scene is in the hospital, and our badly burned hero is being interviewed by Mulder and Scully. And I like this one because they just jump straight into it. There's no preamble back at the offices or anything like that at all. We're just straight into this interview, which has some really nice comments and touches all the way through it. What do you think of this scene, Brian?
Yeah, I liked this scene. So the man tells them that whoever is haunting him is keeping him alive to make him suffer, and that he killed his family. So there's a whole couple of scenes here that kind of build up to make one kind of long sequence. And basically the best thing about it is Scully.
Oh, badass Scully.
She takes no prisoners, she kicks ass, and there's even one point in it where, I'll get to it. So this guy mentions that his family has been killed, and this isn't something that Mulder and Scully have been privy to. They've not been given that information. So by all accounts, on record, this guy just looks like a lunatic. He's got no reason to want to chuck himself into a hot bath. So when this guy mentions that actually, this thing that is tormenting me is responsible for killing my family, that's a new piece of information. And it's at that point where another military officer comes in and basically tells them that the general, the high up man, has told them they need to leave, that their investigation is essentially over, that it's an in-house thing. But then Scully ain't taking any of it, and she proper defends her position. She comes out with all the reasons why they have a stake to a claim, so to speak. And basically runs rings around this woman, and sending her packing back to the general, who Scully demands a meeting with, basically. But yeah, I love that scene. And there's one moment in it when Scully's like railroading this woman, where Mulder gives this look where he just kind of gives this little nod, and then looks to Scully, like continuing to nod, like almost like he's saying, "I don't need to say anything here, Scully. You're just like, just go, girl. You go, girl." Yeah. It's just like, I love the look on his face.
It's just it's the way that that captain comes in, and she's just like just a tiny little bit of sass, and Scully's just like, "Hold my beer." And I mean, you're literally going like, yes, come on, keep going. Shame her, Scully. And in the background, we see someone watching.
Yes, a mailman. Yeah, some guy taking the mail around, who looks proper, not just dodgy, but X-Files dodgy. It's like, when they want to signpost that clearly that someone ain't on the level, and you can just see from one look, this guy's in on it, or this guy's got something to hide. It's like, he's got it written all over him. There's one moment that, they explain it later on in the X-File, in the episode, but at first I was left scratching my head, and I was like, what was that? Were we supposed to know what that was? And I thought Mulder was dropping a note to the guy. Right. And he's got this little, he's carrying these little dental plates that we learn later on. But at this point, it just looks like a little white piece of paper. And the camera kind of follows his hand. So it's obviously very important. We're meant to see this thing. But then when it ain't mentioned during that scene after that, I'm like, did he leave him a note? What's going on? Is that something that's going to come back? So, that threw me off a bit.
Yeah, I felt the same about that one. And we watched the Roach go to group therapy, where we are introduced to the wonderfully douchebag Leonard, who
this guy loves playing douchebags. Like every time I see him, he seems to be this kind of douchebag. So he's the dude in Man of Steel who throws the water over Clark Kent, or the beer. He throws the beer over Clark Kent in the bar and gets his truck totaled by Clark. But yeah, he's very at home playing a douchebag.
Yep. And he does it exceptionally well, because I hated this guy immediately. Him and the giant chip on his shoulder.
Big time. Yeah, he's got bitterness sewed into his roots. It's like it's just and self-pity. That's the thing. Like so he's in this self-help group thing where they're all talking to each other. They've all got, they're all amputees. He's a quadruple amputee. And this one guy's talking about it, trying to get something off his chest, and then he basically just ridicules him, and it's just like,
it's like everybody else has a little bit of hope and a little bit of positivity about the future, and he just comes in like in the most like douchebaggy way of going like, "Oh, my legs are gone, wow, no hands," which is kind of funny, but you're still like, don't be a douchebag.
Yeah.
But then Rochin takes Leonard out of the room, and they have a little confab, and you instantly know these two guys are seemingly behind everything that's going on. Yeah, because they're very wary of the FBI.
Yeah, and this being the X-Files, you also instantly know that it's got to be the quadriplegic who's the main instigator. So and Mulder and Scully go to see the general, who tells them he'll be filing.
Hang on. Can we say Budget Ed Harris? Because that's what I thought instantly.
I'll accept that one. We can accept Budget Ed Harris. So Mulder and Scully go to see Budget Ed Harris, who tells them he'll be filing a complaint about their conduct. Then Scully owns the room, unleashing a tirade of facts about the house fire that killed Stan's family, but which went uninvestigated. Mulder stands there nodding appreciatively. The general, Budget Ed Harris, gets defensive, and Scully comments about being left to find out the truth by themselves. So yeah, pretty much what I was just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you walk into this room and this guy's just like, well, he thinks he's got absolute power, and it's just, Scully's just like, another one, cracking her neck, and then just get... She's just like, I'm not having this, which is another wonderful scene. But this guy seems awful eager to get rid of the guys. It's that little like red herring of what is he up to? Why does he want rid of them so quickly? Because he's threatening them. Yeah,
but I mean, ultimately though, he does turn out to be someone who is actually trying to protect his men. So I think is it Mulder or Scully? I mean, Mulder and Scully have a conversation about what he could be up to, why he could be so eager to get him out, and one of them does suggest that might be the case, that he's just trying to keep his men from, whatever they may have done, whatever's going on, he just wants to keep his men out of the limelight, out of trouble, from further harm or whatever, which turns out to essentially be the case, but whether that's right or wrong is up to you to decide.
So we're also introduced here to, well, we see the captain again. Is that right? Or am I lost? Where are we? We jump to Mulder and Scully investigating further and just discussing their thoughts. Yeah,
so they go to the hydrotherapy room. Scully believes that the general is just covering for his men who killed their own families, but Mulder doesn't understand why a man so hell-bent on killing himself would leave the door unlocked. My question is, why would a man so hell-bent on killing himself choose that particular method of doing it?
Yeah, but I kind of love this way where it's like the complete opposite of Mulder and Scully. Like, they shouldn't be together. They just shouldn't. Because she's all like, it's PTSD, they've killed their families, they're an emotional thing. And Mulder's just like, it's the effects of biological warfare. You're just like... Okay, but then they throw in a little bit of detective work at the end. It's just nice. I like those little tidbits when they're just thrown in. So
the captain apologises to the general before leaving. So this is the woman that had a bit of a thing with Scully. And the general goes to pour himself a drink, then sees the phantom soldier who tells him his time has come and does some funky stuff with a cassette player.
Yeah. Remember those?
Oh, yeah. That was a bit of a throwback, wasn't it? Flipping heck. When he took the cassette out, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And he's playing that words over and over again. I'm like, wow, I wish I knew what Latin was like, because I'm sure that's it. It's definitely kind of some kind of cultish Latin thing. I definitely won't make a fool of myself later on by saying that.
Yeah.
But it's a fun, atmospheric scene.
It is, but it does bring me to my slight niggle that I kind of mentioned at the beginning, which is so I don't think they do a good enough job in this episode of clearly defining just exactly what it is this guy can do or should be able to do.
Yeah.
So, we're told that he can astral project. So obviously we're not there yet. We will get to that. But do you want me to continue, or shall we leave it till
Yeah, on you go.
Okay, so the big thing, obviously, spoilers. You shouldn't be listening to this if you don't want spoilers. Hello. But if we're told this guy can astral project, that's the big thing of this episode. Is that he doesn't have arms and legs, but when he projects his astral body out, almost in a Doctor Strange kind of way, then he can walk about and do stuff. But it's more than that. This isn't just a case of a guy being able to walk about and have physical presence the way he once did. There's spiritual stuff. There's the paranormal stuff, in the sense that he can manipulate a tape, make it go backwards. Like I don't imagine that he's gone home or gone somewhere and recorded this thing and then played it backwards and recorded it backwards so that this is just something he's able to do. And then there's other stuff that he does later on in the episode where I'm just like, I don't know, I just feel like there needs to be a bit more of an explanation as to just what this guy is capable of, because it seems like he's capable of an awful lot. So much so that it kind of begs the question as to how he could be stopped at all. But yeah, it's a bit of a niggle. Like for me, I'd rather they just kept to the astral projection being that, he can be outside his body. He's a physical presence once he's outside of his body, but that's it. So he can move things, he can hit things, but when we get into the ghost,
the strange thing as well is that he can go wherever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. Just needs an address.
Yeah.
Like, can he not just follow people back home? Because the general, he could just follow him back to his house type thing.
Yeah. Because it's almost like, this is what I mean. There's no real explanation. It's all a bit flimsy. Because so what is it? Is it that he touches something that was at that address and therefore he instantly knows the layout and knows how to get there, or is it more? Is he literally getting this mail just so that he can literally look up the address and then walk to it and find it?
Yeah. Well, surely if it was something else, they could just take it off the general or out his office or something like that. But because the letters are barely through the door and the guy's taking them.
Yeah, because the dude's invisible anyway. When when he does his astral projection thing, he's invisible. So like you say, it's not a case that he can't just follow someone to their home. So it's just, again, it's all a bit. It's like, why does he need the mail specifically? Is it just to get the address? And if it is to get the address, why does the guy need to take the mail? Why can't he just write it down? He's obviously gone there. He obviously knows where the house is to have gone there to steal the mail in the first place. So it's not just a case of, I need to know where he lives so I can go there.
I think unfortunately it's a writer's idea, because they need to link somebody with Leonard.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the character that does it. They just, anywho.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. Because if you don't have this guy doing stuff for him, then there's no real way to find out who Leonard is and why he's doing it, so to speak. But it just, I don't know. I just feel like they could have done a bit more work there and make Leonard's powers a little bit more explained and understandable. Because to me, it feels like that whole thing where, you know, if somebody touches a piece of, a bit like Boggs in Beyond the Sea, in the first season episode, Beyond the Sea. You know, great episode, really well defined stuff. When he gets something and he touches it, touches a piece of, you know, Mulder's New York Knicks t-shirt, and he has a vision. You know, he can see anything that was linked to that item, and it feels like it's kind of like that. Oh, if he touches the mail, if he touches something that's been at the home, then he can somehow beam himself there, astrally project himself there. And I just feel like if that's the case, did this dude really need to go to all this trouble of breaking in and getting the mail? Did it really have to be the mail? You know, he could have gotten anything, any kind of household item, but it just all seemed a bit flimsy to me.
Yeah. Could have went in the bin and got the mail after it being read. So we see Captain going for a swim, and this is a wonderful sequence in this kind of like late night swimming pool. No one else is there. She's doing the backstroke and she sees her shadow on the ceiling, and then all of a sudden there's another shadow gaining on her, and there's nobody in the pool. Wonderful, just expertly.
I forgot to take a note of who directed this one, but
it's Rob Bowman.
I had a feeling it would be just really creative visuals. Just like, again, like you said, that whole shadow thing. It's one of the moments that does kind of send the hairs on the back of your neck going up, because she sees it. She knows instantly there's someone there in the water with her, and as soon as she kind of sits up, there's no one there. So it's really freaky. And then you get the invisible predator style effect of when he jumps up out of the water. Yeah, totally agree. Best scene, I think.
It's minimal. It's minimum CGI when the thing comes out of the water, and you just need to see her getting grabbed, and that's it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Not really too much. So then we jump straight to the crime scene here, where they hear that there's bruises around the victim, so we know that it was murder and not accidental death. And the general begins to open up. Yeah. You know, starts to tell Mulder about some of the weirdness that's happened.
I gotta say, at this point, I instantly thought General and the Captain are up to stuff.
Yeah.
He's cheating on his wife with the Captain. That's what I thought. We don't appear to get any evidence that that's the case. It's just that because obviously Leonard, what he does is he takes away the things, you know, that people love, and so when he kills this woman, you know, who works for the general, I assumed that it was because maybe he knows something more about her, like that they're secretly having an affair, but that never actually comes to light. So it's just a simple case that this is a friend, someone he cares about, so he's going to kill him. He's going to start with her and then work his way to the family.
And then we go to the general's home, and obviously they get the dreaded mail through the letterbox, and then there's another little cool sequence of what seems to be someone growing out of the shadows, which we don't know is Roach immediately.
No,
but it's just that I didn't think it was. I thought it was the astral projection.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it just seems to grow out of the shadows almost.
Right, because we saw. Like, do you mean by the mailbox?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When he goes in. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because we see the mail coming through the door.
Yes.
And the door doesn't open or close.
No.
So
he's already in there. Yeah.
Yeah, like a dog just lying at the door waiting on the mail coming in.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like he could have been a little bit more discreet than he was. This guy's a bit of a clown, to be honest.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if he's hanging about in the house, I'm sure there are places in the house where there would be some mail. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you just look behind my front door, you will always find a piece of mail there. If you go into our kitchen, there's always a bit of mail on our table. It's just, it's like, does this guy literally have to wait there for the mailman to turn up? And if so, how long's he been waiting? There's no guarantee as to when the mailman's just going to show up. It's not like a very specific time every week kind of thing. So, yeah.
So then we get Mulder and Scully arriving with the general to his house, presumably to look at or listen to the tapes that he had recorded and just have a look about. Yeah. And Scully sees someone run, and a chase ensues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like she tells them, doesn't she, that their son saw someone. Here's my problem. So they get back, okay. Mm-hmm. Mulder, Scully, and the general. They show up at the house. They go in, and the wife goes to the general and says that what's his face? The kid saw someone in the house, and he's like, "Where is he?" He's upstairs. He's quite upset, and it's like, "What are you still doing in the house?" It's like your kid has said they've seen someone in the house, an intruder in the house, and not only are you still in the house, but you've sent your son upstairs to the bedroom to hang out on his bill, and you're just kind of standing around waiting for your husband to get back. Like, if that was me, I'd be with my son out there. I'd be like, right, let's leave. We'll go next door or whatever. Call the police at the very least.
And what's even weirder is that Roach is still hanging about as well.
I know. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, it's just, there's clearly been no effort there to search for this intruder. Her son's been screaming about. If she'd have even questioned her son for a moment, she would have learned that the intruder didn't leave through the door, so he's could very well still be in the house. So why they're not out the door, I don't know. It becomes a little bit. This stuff didn't actually bother me that much when I was watching it. It's only talking about it now that I think my episode grade is going to take a hit when we get to the end.
I'm thinking that already. There's a half-star drop already from what we've been saying. So we've still got a good part to go.
There's a lot of good stuff. We'll get there in the wrap-ups. I'll even say that for the wrap-up. But so the general goes in with Mulder and Scully, basically tells his wife to just go off and look after the son. It's like, you do realise what she just told you, right? So she goes off to the son while he takes Mulder and Scully into the office to show him this tape, let him hear this tape. And that's when Scully sees Roach outside, hanging out, chilling and a killing. And
probably just playing in that sick-ass sandpit they've got.
Yeah, I don't get why he's still there. I don't get why he's not run off by now. He waits for them to show up and then runs off and play. Yeah.
So they go outside and they see the footsteps in the flat sandpit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and then we kind of jump to Leonard getting an IV drip, and Roach brings him the letters, and the two have a little confab about getting revenge on their bosses.
Yeah. Well, Roach says he wants out. He says he's done. He's tired of being the mailman, and
he's got a squeaky bottom.
He has, but Leonard makes it quite clear that he ain't getting out of anywhere because he owes him, and so it's very clear that this guy and a load of other military guys, as part of some operation, they were all involved in the operation that ended up in him becoming a quadriplegic, and now he's just really bitter about it and wants to take them all out. And the way I see it, once he's finished taking everyone out, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Leonard then finished Roach off at the end.
Yeah, fully expecting that as well.
Yeah.
So then we get like a small scene just so they can say that they found fingerprints, and then we get the raid on Roach's home, which looks like the kind of place a cockroach would stay.
It does.
It is.
And then skeg. Just before that, though, we did get with Roach and Leonard's conversation, the burn victim from the beginning.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah.
He kind of comes in his wheelchair and he overhears them having a conversation. It's like he recognises Leonard's voice. He has this kind of moment of realisation where he's like, it's like that guy in A Clockwork Orange when he's starts freaking out, not quite as overly dramatic. So,
and this when they burst into like Roach's place, it's disgusting in that. But you've got to love the fact that Mulder, doing a thorough search, opens one drawer and finds all the evidence.
It's like, oh man, what the hell?
Okay, boys, we're finishing early tonight. That's job done.
Here's the only explanation for why that mail would be in there. The only explanation is that Leonard has kept that stuff and then taken it to Roach's house and put it in there to incriminate him. Because there is no other explanation as to why this guy would keep that stuff.
Well, I'm going to dispute that because I think Leonard knows that Roach will buckle under any kind of light pressure whatsoever, and he'll lead back to him. And it does the thing with the letter where he shows it to Leonard, and then Leonard gives him it back. He doesn't even he just shows him it, and then he takes it away.
Right.
So he doesn't even give it to Leonard.
So we have to assume that Roach literally took those letters back home with him and made a nice tidy little pile. Despite the fact that this guy seemingly can't do anything tidy because his house is an absolute tip, but he collects all these bits of mail. It makes no sense. No. It's like the only reason he gets that mail is so that he can give it to Leonard, and then Leonard can go off and do his thing. So the moment that's done, why he's not tearing it up and putting it in the bin or burning it, whatever, there's no way that mail would make its way home with him. It's stupid.
Yeah, it begs why does he need to get the letters in the first place? But I like the fact that he keeps it.
Writing.
I like the fact that he keeps it in the drawer with the ants.
I'm Mulder's going to shake off the ants when he takes it out. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And then we get to the deepest sandpit I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, we need to remember, when Roach ran across this, it was flat because it had his footprints on it. Literally just a scene ago. Now it is a kid's most fantastical dream of a sandpit. Nothing bad will happen. And the soldier, even who's watching, guarding there, even gives him a heads up. You need to watch your flank.
Yeah. Nice touch. I always love it how X-Files aren't afraid to kill kids. We should have I listened to a podcast about Smallville called Always Hold On to Smallville, and they do a tally on the show of things that, so every time something happens that is like something that is irregular, they do a tally for it. But we should do a tally every time a young child is a minor is killed on X-Files, because I think it'd be pretty high, to be honest.
And this kind of shocked me because the guy goes away, is it for a cigarette or something?
Mm-hmm.
And he hears something and runs back, and I'm like, how did the kid die? Like, it's literally seconds under sand.
I'm assuming he snapped his neck or something. I mean, he could have done it, couldn't he? Could have just jumped on him. I mean, the guy's a military guy. He's military trained, so a little kid ain't.
But again, the scene with the sand and the guy coming over, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Really like that.
Watch your flank.
Yeah.
So So Mulder and Scully question Roach, but he says
yeah, he looks like he's ready to buckle
yeah,
immediately.
he's already getting twitchy feet. But he says he's just Rappo's mailman. Rappo, of course, being Leonard's nickname. But when they go to see him, they are puzzled due to the no arms and legs thing. Leonard is sleeping in his room with a serious case of rapid eye movement.
Mm-hmm. And Scully's just like, well, that's a dead end. And Mulder's just like,
this is where the case has just opened up.
This guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
You literally see him getting like turned on, literally just the idea of this.
Roach paces his cell like a trapped animal, saying, "He'll find me in here." Mm-hmm. He gets hysterical, so the guard leaves him to it. And when he returns an hour later with Scully, they find him dead in the cell.
Now, I've got a little bone to pick here. So the guard literally looks as if he is on guard at this cell. He's standing outside, and then he opens the door and he's just like,
job. Yeah.
"You better be quiet in there," and then just leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he turns up and he's like, he was losing it an hour ago, but he went pretty quiet. So I'm assuming everything's all right there.
I wonder if these are the same people who guarded Jeffrey Epstein. Ooh.
Yeah. Oh no, he didn't.
Mulder then unloads his wacky theory thanks to some teeth X-rays of the murdered soldiers. They all have damage from some kind of radiation, which Mulder believes to be caused by Leonard's astral projection.
Yeah. And you're like, cool, all right.
Awesome.
I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, and because we've already seen the invisible predator style figure looming around and everything else that kind of that's gone on with it, so we know he's right. We know this is the case. So any kind of alternative theories Scully comes up with this at this point are just going to seem foolish, despite the fact that if in real life these two people were dishing out these theories, we would all be on Scully's side. Let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see the future episodes where Mulder is constantly waving about his dental X-rays, because I'm sure that's going to become a thing now. Just rubbing them all over crime scenes and doing whatever he does with them.
Mm-hmm.
So Leonard is watching TV, and Mulder and Scully appear to interview him, and he's still a douchebag.
I like how Mulder just goes in there and just flat out accuses him. He, as far as Mulder's concerned, this is dead to rights. He's got no doubts whatsoever. This is absolutely what it must be. So he's got no problem just go down and say, "Yeah, I know you can leave your body, and I know you're killing these people."
Yeah, and it makes a little. If I could walk, there'd be other things I'm doing, and we're looking at Scully as he says it.
Yeah,
and Mulder just gives him the final statement of leaning in close and just going, "No sleepwalking."
I like how Mulder gets under his skin. It's something that Mulder's very good at doing, to be honest. But it does unleash a tirade from Leonard that does humanise him a bit. It doesn't stop him being a douchebag. It doesn't make him any less of a douchebag. But we get why this guy's so bitter. It is a serious thing. This notion of people going off to fight wars and then they come back home to find a country that actually just doesn't care. They watched the war on TV, and that's a line he uses. You watch the war on TV, and then you go about your daily business.
But it feels kind of like an oversimplification of like stuff I've seen in movies. Like Born on the 4th of July.
Oh yeah, but I think that's what nutcases do, isn't it? This is an oversimplification because it's a justification for him to do what he does, when in fact there is no justification. So
we're in the general's house.
Uh-huh.
The wife is sullenly packing away toys, which is quite a sad moment actually. I personally, I'm really not good with kid deaths at all. It's something that just usually knocks me for six, and seeing something like that felt like a real moment.
Although
So-
I gotta say, the general does a really piss poor job of consoling his wife.
Yeah.
Because he
I
just
thought he was going to tell her to relax, and that was an order again. She's just going to move.
It's just like he just says to her, "We can get through this." It's like, okay. Way to go.
Am I being ageist by thinking that they were a bit old to have a kid that young?
I put it down to him being a career guy, and they probably didn't. This is just complete backstory I'm filling in. It's just not there in the script at all. But the way I see it, this is a military guy, career guy, who wasn't really intending on having kids. She was at home on the military base by herself with all the other military wives and whatnot, eventually getting broody, and eventually he caves in. It's like he gives her a kid, and it's just like, that's why now when the kid's dead, he doesn't really seem to be showing that much emotion. And he's just there saying, we can get through this. And he's got his military head on.
But he gets a little visit from a ghost, doesn't he? A little fright from Leonard, who appears in the mirror in full glory, arms, legs, the full shebang. Yeah, including bloody footprints.
Kills his wife.
Which I feel logistically just felt odd, because it feels as if we follow him from that conversation into his room. He pulls a drink, and then boom, he hears nothing, but there's instantly bloody footprints in the ground which lead back. And I'm just like, what happened to her?
Well, she leaves, doesn't she? She leaves first. Because he says, we can get through this, and she says, I don't want to get through this, and then she goes up and leaves. So the way I see it, she's gone to the kitchen. She's probably going to cry, and then as General's going upstairs to pour himself a drink, she's already been met by Leonard, who I'm assuming with a knife or whatever has just done her over. Tex, again, trained military officer. Take her out in 5 seconds flat, and so
okay, and then you get like a little different scene where it's just Mulder and Scully driving in the car.
I made a note. I made a note of this. Again, this is say what you want about the writing on this episode. I think there's a lot of deficiencies in it. I think Bowman does an excellent job in the direction, because this scene is, like you say, that there's a driving scene. They're talking in the car, but the camera does some pretty non-typical,
it's not a usual angle.
Normally this would be like in a studio, and I think it is shot in a studio. If you look at the background, there's an element there that it is maybe green screen or blue screen or whatever. But like I say, the camera's moving, so the camera moves in on them talking in the car, and then it pulls out as the car goes off, and normally, like I say, it would just be fixed camera with road in the rear view kind of thing, and just like over the shoulder shots. And it's not. It's done in this like one kind of shot thing with moving camera, and I just think it's for what is essentially just a bridging the gap scene. There's a lot of effort gone into it from a directorial standpoint. So.
No, I really liked it as well. And then we go straight to the hospital with the General talking to the crispy hero from the start, who's Kentucky Fried Colonel or whatever it is, and he knows exactly who's behind it all. It has that cool scene of, and I didn't quite understand this myself, like the gun not firing.
Again, this is what I'm on about, the whole powers thing. So it's Leonard. Leonard isn't allowing these guys to kill themselves. So whenever they try to kill themselves, Leonard stops them, or he brings them back. But it's like what I was saying. What is the definition of this guy's powers? What is it he's capable of? And if he's stopping that gun from firing, how's he doing it? There's too much.
He can't watch them 24 hours a day. He can't do that.
No. Like he'd literally have to be there at the moment that they're trying to kill themselves in order to stop it. That's one.
Yeah.
And two, he'd have to have some weird ass power to stop that, the gun hammer hitting its thing. So it's just, it's ill explained. It's like, it's too, for me, it's too messy. Well,
so the general goes to see Leonard for a confrontation.
mm-hmm.
And Leonard's rather happy to see him.
Yeah.
Even happier to see the gun.
Yeah, Leonard goads him into killing him.
Yeah, Leonard is now allowing the gun to fire.
Mm. Yeah.
But the general doesn't bite and kind of lets him just kind of wallow in his sadness. And he walks out the room. Yeah. He walks out the room. Mulder and Scully are just arriving.
Mm-hmm.
He hands over the gun and he's just like, I'm done. I'm out of here. And at no point does anybody go like, hang on, you've just discharged a weapon in a hospital.
Uh-huh.
You're getting the handcuffs on and taken away, bud.
Yeah.
They're just like, okay, yeah, on you go. Bye.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, possibly that's something that would have to be done by military police. I don't know, but I can't see why the FBI wouldn't have some kind of jurisdiction there on that front. Crime is a crime, after all.
Yeah.
So he gets into the lift. The general gets into the lift.
Yeah.
And it seems like he comes out on a floor that he doesn't expect to be on.
No, he walks out into Freddy's nightmare on Elm Street because it's right into the boiler room. And I'm like, what the heck is this place? Which this must be a steam factory as well, because the amount of steam that is released here just seems unrealistic. But it's cool.
So he gets out of the basement, much to his surprise, and is then attacked by Leonard. Mulder tries to help out, but typically gets his ass handed to him. I would say slapped unconscious again. I say it's another kind of again, if we were doing a tally, how many times does Mulder get his ass handed to him? Let's face it,
a lot.
Scully is better in a fight than Mulder is. As Leonard is about to attack once more, Stans locks Scully out of Leonard's hospital room and suffocates Leonard with a pillow, saving Mulder and the general.
Yes. And then just quietly sits down.
Mm-hmm.
He's quite happy with what he's done. I kind of like that ending. Then we get the Mulder doing his Dear Diary thing, don't we?
Yes, so he just writes up his notes, doesn't he, for the case. Says that officially the case is unsolved. Leonard was essentially an evil bar steward, and Mulder has no clue why, which is really kind of the point, I guess. Is just that because you look at all these men who've been through the same stuff as Leonard. They've lost, they've suffered great loss, but they don't end up like him. They don't choose his path. So it is, I guess that's what the episode is about, is that actually this guy wasn't made into a psycho. He's looking for a reason, and he's found it, and he's blaming the world rather than taking responsibility and moving on as best he can. So yeah.
And you get a little tag on at the end where the general gets some mail handed to him by the colonel.
Yeah, the burn victim.
And this guy's just murdered somebody in front of an FBI officer. Like, is there no retribution whatsoever? Like, I understand that he was tormented in that, but still.
I have no answer for you. I can't defend it. Clearly, the general has stepped in, has somehow wrangled their way out of it.
Swept the murder under the carpet.
Swept it under the carpet, which admittedly, I can understand why. You know, the guy who was killed has killed both his family and the other dude's family. I can't see Mulder being the kind of person who would really chase after the pursuit of justice in this case. Possibly Scully, but
yeah,
I don't know. I get it, but I don't get it.
I understand completely.
So,
wrap up. So I'll go for wrap up in this one. Cool. I like this episode, even though it's got a lot of misgivings, which I think has brought it down a little bit. It's genuinely kind of fun, and I think a lot of that is down to the way it's directed.
Yes.
There is some wonderful scenes, which is the swimming pool, the sand pit, the steam at the end, where CGI is limited, but it's effective.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't look as shocking as other CGI at that time, which I really like. I think Scully being just a no-nonsense person who instantly quick to think and rationalise and articulate her point is just, it's fist-pumpingly good. That she's so wonderful like that. Initially, I'd give this a 4 out of 5. I'm going to knock it down to a 3.5 out of 5.
Dude, exactly the same. I've nothing to add. Everything you just said is exactly what I was going to say, right down to the score. I started at a 4. I've knocked it down to 3.5 out of 5. Part of me is tempted to go to a 3, but as much as the writing is problematic, I did enjoy it. I was invested. I was engaged. This isn't like The List a couple of episodes ago, which was just Marcus. It still held my interest. And like you said, I think that a lot of that is down to the direction, plus Scully getting to be a bit of a badass, and having characters that aren't quite as stereotypical as we normally get in the X-Files. The general, he's the kind of guy who you'd expect to see, like in previous episodes, like Fresh Bones, where we had a general in that, and he was a complete douchebag, and you want him to die. Here, no, he turns out to be actually a decent guy. He doesn't deserve what happens to him, and you do feel sorry for the guy. And to top it off, he has the courage to not kill the man responsible at the end. So he's got heroic qualities about him. So 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Okay. Now the next episode, Brian, episode 8. How do you say this?
I knew you were going to say that. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to say it's pronounced oubliette. But I've probably just butchered whatever that word is. But yeah, I've always called it oubliette. Give me
a little taste of this one.
So I think Silence of the Lambs kind of vibe, So abductee who got free from her abductor, but now sees visions of him once more, getting up to his business and having to confront that demon, so to speak. I liked it from what I remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so it's one I'm looking forward to revisiting.
Fantastic. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this episode and upcoming episodes. Please drop us an email. The email address will be in the notes below in this podcast, and you can have your thoughts read out if we like them or we find them curious enough. Thanks for listening, and of course if you like to rate us on iTunes, we would really appreciate that. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the X-Files Revisited. So as always, we'd love to know your thoughts on this episode or upcoming episodes. If you please just drop us an email at do we have an email address, Brian?